He spent 70 years mastering himself, never stopped, never claimed to be perfect, just kept working on who he was every single day. Around 500 BC in ancient China, Confucius watched people chase external success while ignoring the one thing that actually determined their future: their character, their discipline, their daily choices. Everyone wanted power, wealth, and status, but nobody wanted to do the hard work of controlling themselves, of building discipline, of mastering their habits and impulses, and Confucius saw where that led: to people who got everything they wanted and still ended up miserable, because they never built the internal structure to handle success, never developed the discipline to sustain it. So he taught something radical: that your destiny isn't determined by luck or circumstances, it's determined by your discipline, by whether you can control yourself, and that self-mastery is the only foundation worth building. Here's what most people get wrong about success. They think it's about opportunity, about being in the right place at the right time, about luck, about circumstances aligning. So they wait. They hope. They blame their lack of success on not having the right breaks. But Confucius watched for decades and saw a different pattern. The people who succeeded long-term weren't the luckiest. They were the most disciplined. They showed up every day. They did the work even when they didn't feel like it. They controlled their impulses. They built habits that compounded, and that discipline created opportunities that looked like luck to everyone else. Meanwhile, the people without discipline got opportunities and wasted them, got wealth and lost it, got power and abused it, got relationships and destroyed them, because they never built the internal foundation to handle what they achieved. They were undisciplined, and undisciplined people can't sustain anything good. They sabotage themselves every single time. Confucius taught that discipline is the root of everything. You want wisdom. It requires the discipline to study when you'd rather relax. You want strong relationships. It requires the discipline to show up, to listen, to control your reactions. You want success. It requires the discipline to work consistently, to delay gratification, to keep going when it's hard. Without discipline, you have nothing sustainable. Just temporary wins followed by inevitable collapse. He broke discipline down into specific areas. First, discipline over your words. He said, the superior person is slow to speak, but quick to act. Most people do the opposite. They talk constantly about what they're going to do, make promises, declare intentions, but they don't follow through. Their words mean nothing because there's no discipline backing them up. Confucius taught that you should speak less and do more, that your actions should exceed your words. That discipline means keeping your mouth shut about your plans until you've actually executed them, because talking releases the pressure to act. It gives you a fake sense of accomplishment, and it makes you look foolish when you don't deliver. Second, discipline over your emotions. He taught that the person who can control their anger controls their life, that losing your temper is losing control, that emotional discipline is what separates mature people from children. Children react, adults respond, and the difference is discipline. The ability to feel the emotion without being controlled by it, to pause, to think, to choose your response instead of just venting. Third, discipline over your time. Confucius said that every day is an opportunity to improve or decline. You're never static. You're either getting better or getting worse. And what determines which direction you're going? Your daily choices, your habits, your discipline. If you're disciplined about how you spend your time, you improve. If you're undisciplined, you decline. It's that simple. He practiced this religiously. Even in his 70s, he was still working on himself, still studying, still trying to be better than he was yesterday. He never stopped. Never said, "I've arrived, I'm done growing." Because he understood that discipline isn't a destination. It's a practice, a daily commitment, a way of life. There's this story about Confucius when he was old. A student asked him, "Master, have you achieved perfection?" Confucius laughed and said, "I'm not even close. But I work on myself every day. That's all I can do." And that answer reveals everything. He wasn't pretending to be perfect. He was committed to the process, to the discipline of daily improvement. And that commitment is what made him great. He also taught about small disciplines creating big results. He said, "The person who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." What's he saying? That discipline isn't about massive, heroic efforts. It's about small, consistent actions. Day after day, week after week, year after year. That compounds into transformation. Most people want instant results. They want discipline to pay off immediately. But Confucius understood that real discipline is playing the long game. Showing up today, even though you won't see results for months. Doing the work, even though nobody's watching. Building habits that won't pay off for years. That's real discipline. And that's what creates destiny. Now let's talk about how this applies to your life. Because you probably lack discipline in key areas. And it's destroying your potential. You have goals. You have dreams. You have things you want to achieve. But you're not disciplined enough to actually do the daily work required. So nothing happens. And you wonder why? Think about your current situation. Where are you undisciplined? Maybe it's your health. You know what to eat. You know you should exercise. But you lack the discipline to actually do it consistently. So your health declines. And you blame genetics or circumstances instead of your own lack of discipline. Or maybe it's your work. You know what needs to be done. But you procrastinate. You get distracted. You do the easy things and avoid the hard things. That's lack of discipline. And it's why you're not advancing. Not because you're not capable. Because you're not disciplined. Or relationships. You know you should communicate better. Listen more. Control your reactions. But in the moment, you don't. You snap. You withdraw. You avoid difficult conversations. That's lack of discipline. And it's destroying connections that matter. Here's the truth Confucius taught. Your life right now is the result of your past discipline or lack of it. Where you are is where your daily choices brought you. And where you'll be in 5 years is determined by the discipline you build starting today. That's not motivational talk. That's math. Small actions compound. Disciplines compound. Habits compound. And they create your destiny whether you believe it or not. So how do you build discipline? Confucius gives clear steps. First, start small. Don't try to transform everything at once. Pick one area, one habit, one discipline, and build it. Make it so small you can't fail. Then do it every day. No exceptions. That consistency builds discipline like muscle. And once that habit is solid, add another. Second, remove temptation. Confucius taught that the superior person doesn't put themselves in situations where they'll fail. If you lack discipline around food, don't keep junk food in your house. If you lack discipline with your phone, put it in another room. If you lack discipline with certain people, limit your time with them. Don't rely on willpower alone. Use wisdom to create an environment that supports discipline. Third, track your progress. Confucius believed in self-examination. In reviewing your day, in noticing patterns. Where did you succeed? Where did you fail? What triggers your lack of discipline? Write it down. Notice it, because you can't fix what you don't see. And tracking creates accountability to yourself. Fourth, connect discipline to purpose. Why do you want to be disciplined? What's the bigger reason? Confucius taught that discipline for its own sake is hard to maintain. But discipline in service of something meaningful is sustainable. So clarify your purpose. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to build? Let that guide your disciplines. Fifth, accept that discipline is uncomfortable. Confucius never pretended it was easy. He said, the superior person does what is difficult. The inferior person does what is easy. Discipline means choosing discomfort now for better results later. And most people can't do that. They choose comfort now and accept worse results later. That's why most people fail. But if you can embrace the discomfort of discipline, everything changes. You become someone who keeps their word, who shows up, who follows through, who builds things that last. That's power. Real power, not over others. Over yourself. And self-mastery is the foundation of every other kind of success. Confucius also warned about what happens without discipline. He said, without discipline, the person is like a wild horse. All potential but no direction. All energy but no control. They might run fast, but they're not going anywhere meaningful. And eventually, they exhaust themselves, or they crash. Because undisciplined energy is destructive energy. It doesn't build, it just burns. Think about people you know who are talented but undisciplined. They have potential, but they waste it. They start things and don't finish. They make promises and break them. They have good days followed by weeks of nothing. And over time, their lack of discipline destroys whatever natural talent they had. Because talent without discipline is just wasted potential. But discipline without talent, that still gets results. Confucius proved this. He wasn't the most naturally gifted, but he was the most disciplined. And that discipline over decades made him one of the most influential people in human history. Not because he was special, because he showed up every day for 70 years, working on himself, building character, practicing discipline. That's available to you too. You don't need special talent. You don't need perfect circumstances. You just need discipline. The willingness to do what needs to be done, consistently. Even when you don't feel like it. Even when nobody's watching. Even when results seem far away. That's what creates destiny. Not wishes, not hopes, not potential. Discipline. Confucius spent his whole life teaching this. And at the end, he could say he'd lived according to his principles. Not perfectly, but consistently, with discipline, and that consistency over time created wisdom, created character, created a legacy that lasted thousands of years. Your destiny is being created right now, by today's choices, today's disciplines, or lack of them. You can keep being undisciplined and wonder why nothing changes. Or you can start building discipline, one small habit at a time, and watch your entire life transform over the next few years. The choice is yours. But the outcome isn't negotiable. Discipline creates destiny. Always has. Always will. The only question is whether you'll believe it enough to actually practice it. Subscribe for more wisdom that changes lives.